Hello and welcome to another video for COMP3218 Game Design and Development at the University of Southampton. My name is Dave Millard. I'm one of the lecturers on the course and I'm here with
Dan Hobson. I'm a demonstrator on the course.
So we've got a few games to look at in today's video. Dan, do you want to just say a little bit about what we asked the students to do?
Yeah, so this is our second coursework, and for this one we were asking students to give us a game with a story engine. So that's something where the gameplay affects some sort of story that's happening, and something in the story affects how that gameplay proceeds.
Let's get on and have a look at our first game. So our first game is called The Angsty Fighter at the Cave.
You have to get into the role-playing as an angsty fighter here.
I'll do my best. So I've got, okay, start, exit, fine, let's go for start. Oh, move, straight into it. That person's fighting for me.
Okay, so that's presumably indicating what you should be trying to achieve, and you've got some little bit of tutorial on screen, which is nice to see.
Good. Who's this knight? Who's he doing?
So some stuff has health bars, so that's presumably stuff we can kill. Yeah. The guy who doesn't move, there's some of these knights with no health bars, so they're either immortal or
scenery.
Not actually people. They might be statues or someone.
I find it a bit odd. I think no matter what direction I'm going, that's my friend. No matter what direction I'm going in, I always swing to the right.
Okay.
Oh, there's my dash. Oh, that's my dash cooldown on top. That looks of it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
we've flipped perspectives.
Okay. I mean, it's very appealing graphics. Seems a little inconsistent with the first bit, but it's a good-looking game.
I can't jump or anything. I've just got my...
Does that sign say rich or right?
But I think it says right, but possibly... But also, okay. I don't appear to be able to attack or do anything anymore. I can dash.
We've had a tutorial teaching us how to use the controls, and the controls have changed.
Yes, and then the graphics have changed. And I've also got this other graphic on the back here, which is different style. E. Rival. Hey, kid. Oh, I thought it was a poster. It's a person. Hey, kid. Hey, kid. Hey, kid. Oh, space. Ah, you. So if you press E, he just speaks again.
You can make him interact as many times as you like.
That's right, yeah. And then the space is what goes on. Well done in the fight earlier. You know, it was really lucky that I was there. Oh, that's the other guy was there. I suppose he's got the same coloured top.
Sure.
Rival saying that I needed his help. Whispers of a beast that terrorized this region hundreds of years ago. A monster so strong it had killed everyone who had gone to the East Caves. No one ever returned. So if you really think you're better than me, kill the cave beast. All right, that sounds fine. I don't look an awful lot like my portrait, do I?
A little weird, yeah. You could have just grabbed the sprite image for that bit.
Posters. E. Mother, welcome back, sweetheart. We're so glad to see you back safe and sound. Kill these. Okay, they look horrified. A lot of text, but fine. So, yes, yeah. This is homemade health tonic. Do you accept it?
Why would we not accept it?
Understand? Yeah, fine. Yeah,
so
I don't understand why.
We'll have to come back and see what changes.
I understand why you wouldn't accept it. I know you're trying to prove yourself, but
yeah.
Village sounds fade into distance, just quiet, ambient footsteps.
That's worth noting. I can't hear stuff, but that might be how we're streaming. Do you have background sounds and interaction?
There's no music, but there is sound effects.
Right.
So there's faint footfalls here. But back when we were fighting, we had all sorts of battle noises. So, okay, so I walk right. I get E. Danger. Keep out. Oh no. I have a lot of choice. So
Yeah, keep going forward.
go. Oh, okay. We're back to this one again now.
Yeah, okay. So it's interesting that
Again.
these sections maybe are more the gameplay sections, and the 2D scrolling bit is really just the
exposition.
to give you the narrative bits. Just slightly
Add
more
high snap
interesting
O2.
than pop-up.
Yeah. Activate a W dialogue collide.
Oh.
Whoa, mind that branch.
That sounds a little bit like the students left themselves a reminder to finish the game, and
I think I just woke up the monster by walking over the branch.
Right. Okay.
Can I attack the monster? Oh, I am swiping that way this time. That's weird.
Yeah. Okay. Also, these falling rocks seem to damage it when it gets hit by the falling rocks, and presumably damage you as well. So
yeah, I did.
You've got a little bit of strategic combat going on there.
Okay, I better try that again. How do I not go over the log?
You don't have jump or anything, do you? You can't sneak around the edge.
There it is. Whoa, mind that branch. Should I dash?
Interesting that it says mind that branch, and then likelihood is here that this is false agency.
Dashed over it. Dashed over it.
Ah, no, that's very nice then. I quite like the fact that they don't tell you how to get past it, but they do provide you with the tools, and you are able to correctly guess how to get through it.
Then now, that is the monster. If injured, speed or stamina debuff or screened red border if escape fast. Do you think they've written some notes to each other and then not taken them out of the deployment?
I think this is behind the scenes dev notes.
Sure about the whole monster thing. Let's build the monster. Supposed to do? What's over here, do you reckon?
Our quest was go to the place to kill the monsters. So was that the monster supposed to kill?
We're back in. So we're back in the village, but this time we've got the top view, not the side view.
Yeah. Interesting. They don't do it differently for each bit.
So I never should have gone.
So is the thought that we went to the monster, we didn't wake the monster up, but the monster then chased us all the way home?
I can't get rid of the dialogue. It won't go.
Maybe if you talk to someone else, it'll overwrite it.
Rival, I'm socially reading it back here. I should never have gone. You really killed it. Oh, I see. That's my old text. I don't think it cleans up the dialogue. You really killed it. I was kidding earlier. I thought it was just. What about the two people who came and helped me?
Yeah, and they just, generic guards of the town.
That's it. Do you think that's the end of the game?
I don't think we have any outstanding quests, so...
The cave? I'll try that, otherwise we'll go home.
Yeah.
In the meantime, should we start thinking about the criteria?
Yeah, so let's start with thoughts on presentation. We've got graphics, audio, and information to consider.
So, any one of these bits in isolation would probably be okay, but putting them all together is a bit odd. So I don't understand why we've got the weird section with the 2D side scroll view.
Yeah, it's clear that they've done some extra work, but it's not clear what the benefit of that extra work was. Like, seeing as we have the interactions in this 3D environment instead, then the first bit could have been here.
So this is I think it's the same. I think it's the same as the first scene, but just zoomed out. I don't know why I'm zoomed out. Let's go back in and go through again. And I don't know, they looked to me like there were multiple exits from the cave as well.
Right, yes. So we should have a look and see if we can get to any of those. It's interesting that we have these generic guards doing some fighting at the start, and in at least the ending we were going towards, they come back at the end. That feels maybe like a slight missed opportunity for story there, right? Like these could be named guards, or
Yep.
there could be something
they're doing. I thought they were
inspired by how great these guards were, and we want to look like them or something.
Yes. Also, what I thought it was the rival, because he says here about.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Hey kid, yeah, earlier in the fight, I was there, but there was multiple yous, so that was weird. They came back again at the end. He didn't mention it, so I'm really very confused. Also, my parents gave me a health potion.
You never used it. Never had a chance to use it.
Don't think it ever told me how to use it. Let's try. I'll take it again and then see if. Okay.
It may well be the case that you need to intentionally get close to dying for it to say.
Or did it just give me all my health back? Maybe. But I can't tell because. So that leads us on a little bit. So the graphic stuff, like this scene is absolutely fine. The cave is absolutely fine. The village afterwards is absolutely fine, but they're all different, and that's not fine. It's a bit strange. I mean, it is okay to go from one mode to another, and like you said, I was kind of thinking, well, you're right. We've got like the action bits, they're the top down bits, and then the side scrolly bits where I talk to people. Kind of makes sense. But then the bit at the end is very odd, where it's kind of a mixture of the two. It makes it feel that it isn't intentional, but it's just sort of accidentally turned out that way.
To me, the thing that seems a little weird, particularly for the coursework where we're asking to deliberately tie narrative and game together, is that the sprites we play as during the gameplay bit and the sprites that we see during the narrative bit are as different to each other as you could imagine. So we don't know who in the gameplay bit corresponds with who in the narrative bit.
So the graphics are kind of are fine, but sort of weirdly inconsistent. Then there's no music. There are some nice sound effects, and then information design is also a bit of a mixed bag, because I've got my cooldown for my dash and my health. That's very obvious. That works. But then, as you said, understanding who's who doesn't work very well.
And we got confused. The first scene has statues of soldiers as well as real soldiers, and we don't know why.
Even if they are statues.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of weird. This is where you walk incredibly slowly through the cave. I'm not going slow. It just is very slow. And then you get this bit here. So shall I try dashing over this and going through one of the other exits?
Yeah. Okay.
Sure, that was the dash. So we've got. So I could also, because I was supposed to fight it. So why am I exiting? Oh no, it just takes me to the same place.
Okay, so they all come out of the same place.
Why are those people here?
Yeah, I think the story here involves that monster chasing you all the way back to your home, but the gameplay doesn't involve the monster chasing you all the way back to your home, which is kind of the connecting bit that they kind of want. The story says you should be doing a bit where you're doing an endless runner almost thing. And it kind of time skips that.
Yeah, that's peculiar. So we get the same ending. So I'm going to restart it and we'll try a different.
So I think in terms of summarizing that presentation, then graphics, lots of very nice graphics, but they're inconsistent. Audio, there's some nice bits and some lacking bits. Information design, we've got mostly all the information we'd like to see, but partly because of the combination with the other things, we're not quite sure what we should be expecting to see.
So what would be satisfactory, for example?
Workable, effective, but some inconsistencies. That seems about right.
It's feel about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't go down to pass marks as flawed with many inconsistent elements or simplistic. I think we're better than that. And I don't think we're as high as the good mark for professional, complete, and effective. So satisfactory sounds right to me.
So that takes us on to the kind of mechanics and controls. So mechanically, I can walk around. I can click to interact with things and go through dialogue, and there was a choice system as well for whether I get help from parents here.
Mm.
Hacking and dashing. Um, it doesn't feel particularly cohesive. By which I mean the attacking and dashing doesn't really feel like there's much skill in the fighting. I just kind of if I just walk off.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not clear whether the mechanics affect very much in terms of the gameplay. Certainly, the swinging of sword does some of the gameplay attack bits. The dashing, it doesn't seem that important that you need to run away
And
from elements.
and in fact, the one place where it is important, it's weirdly inconsistent, right? So I dash over the log. So the bit where I want to move slowly and quietly is the bit where I dash.
Yeah, I can imagine really that
Right,
what the gameplay might have been lacking would be some traps or something where part
yes.
of the movement in the arena, yes, you want to fight the things, but also yes, you want to dash at the right time so that you can jump over a spike pit or something. I suppose these rock falls is maybe the thing that does actually bring that in play. Is it helpful to you to dash to get out of the way of the
I
rock
think
falls?
you're right, actually. So yes, it is. Ah,
So actually, I kind of like that.
the shadows appear. Oh, I
Yeah.
died.
So we actually
Yeah.
see more gameplay mechanics when we engage with the fighting bit of the.
Yeah, you're right.
Brand.
So I think the mechanics and the controls are kind of okay. They're I mean, what would a satisfactory be?
Yeah, playable, simpler game with fewer mechanics, usable controls, may have some minor bugs. I think that's in approximately the right spot. The combat isn't particularly complicated, but there are a few mechanics. Controls are usable. We've seen some minor bugs in the glitching in the dialogues and things like that, but those are certainly minor.
Oh, did you see use health came up then?
Okay.
F.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to kill this thing. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, so it sounds to me like sort of satisfactory level sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah, fight wise. Now, interestingly, there is rockfall that seems to fall in front of the entrance, the exits, and I don't know whether or not that's an additional mechanic that if you're fighting for too long, then it becomes impossible to leave, which might be intentional behavior, or it might be a soft light.
I think I almost did it then. I think if I'd have managed to hit the health in time.
So
see the F didn't come up until I was dead.
Yeah.
It did last time. It did. I think there must be a point where it comes up, maybe when you're in the bottom 25% of health or something. But then the next hit killed me. So
yeah. Interestingly, you might be able to hit F even before you're prompted that that's the right key. Not sure whether or not you're locked out from using it until you've been told how to use it. But if you get low, you might manage to use it anyway.
Let's try it. F. No.
Okay.
So I didn't get any chance to use it then.
Yeah, so that window is a little too narrow for us to actually get to interact with it. But
that's a shame. So they should have. I wonder if this is a case where, I mean, this is the only real fight in the game, I guess. So I wonder whether they've just got to the point where they can do it.
Maybe.
Therefore, they're kind of from their playtesting point of view, it's not really an issue.
So certainly, I'm looking at their, almost there. I'm looking at their notes just to see if there's anything we can glean from here. There certainly is a branching path that says use health potion, so they certainly expect it to be possible for what you're trying to do to work.
Although a couple of people have done this, they think that using the health potion is not a branching part of the narrative, right?
Mm.
I guess that if you have used it, probably is.
Yes, it's certainly not a narrative decision, right? Like it's a calculation within the gameplay.
F. Nope, doesn't work.
Oh, okay, it doesn't even work.
Doesn't work. Yeah. All right. I'm not sure. I did almost do it before, so there's a chance I might. So I'll keep battling. At least they put me back at the beginning of the cave. That's a good decision.
Yes.
Let's go on and talk about the narrative bit.
Yeah. So let's look at game world to story. Do we see a few or multiple examples of where the game world impacts the story? And so the gameplay actions here, of course, is this main fight. Maybe you could argue that opening scene where you kill the starting monsters. So I don't know whether it's the case that whether you kill them versus whether the rival kills them changes the dialogue or anything like that.
We've got one clear place where the game world impacts the story, which is if I don't kill the monster and I leave the cave, the monster follows me, and that appears to have an impact, right?
Yeah. Yes, it changes the gameplay in the sense that you still do the fight, but you do the fight without the falling rocks obstacles, and you do the fight with the help of other soldiers around you.
And I presume, and then the dialogue seems to respond to that. So obviously I haven't defeated it yet, but I'm guessing that if you do, you get a different ending. So there's a place where the story does respond to the gameplay, but it's quite minor. I mean, it's sort of one thing in particular, right?
Mm. Yeah, so I think it is probably the case that we're seeing a few sparse examples, but they're a relatively coherent example, which would put us at a pass level. If we go up to satisfactory, we need to see some examples.
I think I've done it.
Where that... Oh. Interesting.
The cave still crushed me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so annoying. All right.
Well, interesting you say it's annoying. I'm going to temporarily jump us forward to feedback then, just because I'm reading the notes ahead. And the first bit of feedback, let's see what you think of this. Finding the fun of the gameplay, how to make an unbeatable enemy fun to fight. I think that what's happening here is that if you knock the enemy down to 0 health, it sits there bleeding with graphics that we saw, but doesn't die, and you either have to die to it or run away.
So, can I get out to the cave, do you think? So there's the entrance down the bottom here. Because you're right, the top entrances get blocked, right? Can't get out of those. They get blocked up.
Yeah. So it sounds like during playtesting, either us in the labs or their friends have done exactly what you're doing here, had a grind at the fight and kept going until they managed to defeat the enemy, got to this stage and discovered you still don't win the fight. And so they've said
Get
that...
out.
Yeah.
Beaten it.
And the monster's gone. Is the monster accidentally shimmied itself into the...
Oh, I killed it. I killed it, so it disappeared.
Oh, so it is a beatable enemy.
I beat it last time. But then got killed by the rockfall.
Yeah.
And this time, I managed to get to the side and avoid the rockfall, and the rockfall's finished. But now, I can't escape.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm trapped. So I'm not entirely sure. I mean, on their, we asked them to give us a sort of a graphic showing the story. What happens if I fight the monster in the cave?
Yeah, so it says you can get to the point where you have killed the monster, or you can get to the point where the cave collapses, burying the monster, which is either what we've seen here, or I don't know if it's possible for the whole screen to cave in. It might be that they have defined this as an end state. It's not clear to us that the game has ended, but I think this is narratively supposed to be like a sacrifice victory. the village
Yeah.
is safe because you have fought this thing in the cave and not let it out.
So perhaps next time I should try and start the fight and then escape. Is that the plan?
Yeah, that is a thing that they're. Although I think it looks like escaping during the fight will have the same effect as dodging the fight.
So how
and
do
not
I?
trigger it.
So how do I get the ending where I don't lead it back to the village and escape? Is that an ending?
Yeah, so the endings being the fight in the village, and then the other two. If you keep fighting while trapped in the cave,
Yeah.
you can either end up with killing the monster or dying because the cave collapse buries you. So I guess that is really just one ending, right?
So we've seen those endings, right? I died and we got the cave collapse.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So where were we? We were talking about game world to story to game world to story. So game world to story. So we had that one single example, and you were suggesting that was a particular category, but I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, pass mark for a few sparse or minor examples. I think we've got one solid example.
Yeah, what was it for then?
Poor, some support for story elements in the gameplay, but game world has no real impact on the story. I think we're better than that. We certainly see response in the story to whether or not you've brought the monster back or not.
It's only one example though. It's not a couple of examples, or maybe it's halfway between the two for the one example.
Yeah, I suppose halfway between poor and pass.
Round, we've got. That's annoying. That's what's stuck on the screen now. So the other way round, which is story to game world. I suppose the one that they've put in here is the health potion, right? So the idea is, if I choose to take the health potion, I end up with a health potion. It's not really a narrative decision. It kind of linked into the narrative about your independence, but it's quite tenuous.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a little bit more narrative structure really supporting that to make it feel like a meaningful choice rather than a calculation.
Yeah.
Both of us immediately. Yeah. This is a mechanical effect. It's either get something positive or don't. We'll have the positive fingers.
If I try and escape, can I get out?
I think perhaps it would work better as a narrative element if the rival offered you the health potion and said, "I bet you're going to need this health potion. Are you going to take it with you?" And if you turn it down, then you're playing the narrative thing of the boastfulness, right? The kind of the hubris option.
Died. Yeah. So that's the only place, and again. So what would a pass be here? I presume it's the same. It would be no support, but some story.
Symmetric. So pass or minor examples. Poor says some support for story elements, but no real impact on the game world.
There's almost no story structure, right? That's so. What am I actually? I mean, this will come up in the agency one, so what the actual choices are. But because there's such a paucity of choices, there is one place where it does it. So
same as before.
It's probably the same as before, and I think that's as best as we can do. And then the agency one, then. So this is about the quality of the choices.
Yeah. What do we think of the richness of choices? We're somewhere between few choices, player agency is problematic. Even lower than that, a story with no real choices of consequence, or higher than that, some choices, but only a few are interesting.
So arguably, there are two places where it branches. One where we accept the potion or not. Two, do we fight in the cave or not? Right. Neither of them are really framed as are really narrative choices, to be honest.
Yeah, in order to really build them up as narrative choices, you need something maybe more like the rival catches up with us in the cave and goes, "Oh my god, I didn't think you'd actually go after the monster. That looks really scary. We should run."
Yes, something. And then legs it, and you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can even combo on the back of that. If you go back and tell everyone else that the rival fled, you can call them a coward and something.
There's very little. So
feel more rich.
So what would a pass be for agency.
Some choices, but only a few are interesting.
Well, there is some choices. There aren't any interesting choices, I don't think.
So below that, the poor mark, few choices, player agency is problematic.
I think it's probably there. Yeah. So 2 choices. Your agency is problematic because it's not clear. First of all, the potion one isn't clear because you should always take the potion. Why wouldn't you? Second of all, the cave one isn't clear because it's never framed in that way, right? I mean, the first time I didn't even wake the monster up; I just crept past it and left. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it has to be poor for that, unfortunately.
I think I'd like to say that the decisions have the potential to be interesting. They just need a little bit more support built around them to really make the player feel like they want to make those decisions. And often we will commend a game where there are decisions made that are diegetic, something like leaving the cave not being an obvious pop-up. Would you like to leave the cave or not? Usually that works really well.
But it has to be framed. So
So
your solution, for example, of having the rival pop up and say something like, "I'm out of here. We can get help in the village," or something, right?
Yeah.
And just that then means that you intentionally are drawing it back to the village, right? And it makes it feel like a proper choice. So that takes us on to the storytelling stuff, so that's pacing and techniques.
Yeah.
I'm going to restart again, but pacing. What do we have? Do you think?
Well, the interesting part is their opening scene is in media res.
Yep.
There's conflict happening straight away. Then we push back into the setup. Here's what the village is, and so on.
It's almost too fast, isn't it? It's kind of because you need time to read the controls before you're into it.
Really, the game should have paused, and then when you are ready to start playing, you press or click or something. But that's minor.
So a bit of an media res to start with, although in media res in terms of action rather than story, because there's no real story.
Yeah, it's not. It's only here that we get what the story we have just experienced was.
Yeah. So we've got that, and then we've got these pop-ups here. This tells a story.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of environmental storytelling. In the cave, I think there was a dead adventurer with a sword on the floor, possibly. So they have used a couple of methods. I wouldn't say they've been used particularly effectively, but they have had a go at a couple of ways of doing it. So what would a satisfactory be for?
So satisfactory for storytelling, we want fully successful use of at least one game writing technique. Below that, partial successful use of at least one game writing technique. We've got a few techniques used somewhat successfully.
Yeah. So maybe as a compromise we would say satisfactory.
Yeah.
There's our dead adventurer.
Oh yeah.
Sword on the floor, little skeleton, another one up here. So yeah, this is that's quite nice.
How does the pacing feel in this section? Does it feel like you're getting towards the dramatic climax?
Well, the pacing's. I mean, it's quite short, so the pacing is difficult in a short game. But we asked them to do a short game. So the pacing starts off with a battle that's not particularly challenging. Then I have a bit of a lull, and then I come in here and I have the big battle. It doesn't feel like it ramps up particularly well. It does feel like there's a climactic battle. That battle is much more climactic if I choose to actually have it in the cave.
Yeah.
So
I think for me, I would say there feels like there's a first and third act, and not so much of a second act, in the sense that on our first playthrough, it wasn't clear to me whether this was a mini boss on the way to hit the finale, or whether or not this was being set up as the end. I think it would be nice if we had just one more little fight, the same sort of thing as the opening scene, in between the set off on your quest and reach this guy, just to remind us that there are small enemies, and then this enemy is distinctively bigger than those enemies.
Yeah, it needs that ramp up. So I mean, again, what would a satisfactory be?
Some ascending pacing, which feels right to me. We'd have to go to higher than that, ascending pacing with a clear final peak, and I'm saying that the final peak is unclear, even though there is one. So I think we're satisfactory for that.
Yeah, I think you're right. in a sense, we've got a final peak without the ascending pacing. So we're interpreting it that way. But yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so does that take us on to their feedback?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mentioned before the first piece of feedback was regarding how to make an unbeatable enemy. They said that they wanted the boss to be unkillable. They said they tried to make the combat responsive with graphics, show the player feedback of the progress with the health bar and so on.
Yeah.
They say dialogue is cringy but interesting and fitting for a Byronic hero character. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Do we feel like that's been successful? I'm not completely clear what they're responding to there.
Well, no. So a couple of things. So first of all, the unkillable enemy. The unkillable enemy is killable, so that's not. You then can't escape the cave. The cave collapse. The cave collapses. It's not clear why it collapses, but it does. However, if you get killed by this enemy, or in fact you get killed by the cave collapse, there's nothing to tell you that's happened. So there's no way, and then it takes you back to the beginning of the cave. So effectively, you're just infinitely fighting the boss, and you only discover that you can't get out of the cave when you defeat them. So I'm not sure they've really executed that particularly well. The dialogue is it is corny dialogue. That's fine. No one minds a bit of corny dialogue. But it doesn't really build a story. So yeah, I'm not sure. And as you said, it doesn't actually say what their feedback was.
There's one more piece of feedback which maybe makes a little more sense. We gave them feedback saying the state of the game should look different at different stages of the narrative. It should be clear that some story has happened between the start and the end of the game. They respond to this by saying injured character portraits after fighting the boss. Is that true? After you fought the boss, does your sprite change, or is there something in the background, the characters that you meet, do they have something that looks different?
I fought the boss. Yes, the character portrait did have some wounds on it. Yes, that's true, actually.
Okay. So there's been some attempt to respond there.
Well, but again, that's still part of the narrative. That's not part of the gameplay. So I would say that's the narrative responding to the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Want the environment to change, or the enemies to behave differently, or there to be new things to collect, or I need a kind of slightly more positive. I killed the boss again.
Yeah. Yes, that's the thing.
And that's the other thing here is the cave collapse just stops. Just wandering about in the cave. So okay, so I mean, what would be a pass for their feedback?
Let's see. So that was feedback was addressed, but the changes have had limited success.
So I think they've described some changes and they've had limited success, but they've not said what the feedback is. What would be a poor?
Feedback was not addressed well, although some other positive changes have been made. Maybe closer, or maybe between.
I think we may have to go with that one because it's not clear what their feedback was, and they've made some positive changes, but they've not been entirely successful. So I think probably we're there at the poor. I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a shame. They've given us a really nice, clear tree or branching narrative structure. So I've had a fairly easy time reading through what they thought was going on. I think we found some places where what they thought was going on didn't quite match what we saw the gameplay doing. But it feels like they've been pretty close here with just a little bit more, a few tweaks in a few places. This had the potential to really step up quite a lot.
Yeah, they needed to develop the narrative more. They needed to make a bit more distinction between mechanical choices and narrative choices. I know that can be difficult when you have narrative choices that have mechanical consequences. But if there's no narrative to support the choice, then it's just a mechanical choice, right?
I'm wondering whether or not a lot of the development for this might have been done right at the end. So when they got their feedback, they might not have had much of a game to have to see and respond to at the time the feedback was given.
Right. Okay, let's go on to our next game. So our next game is called Clause of Consequence.
Hopefully, something of consequence implies we are going to get some good narrative decisions and some consequences of those.
Be nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Start school. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting some sort of jungly type scenario. So here we are outside a school building. Start school.
Right.
Ooh. Position. Here we are, Alex Black. Here we are, Alex Blackridge Academy. Hard to believe you're finally starting here. Press I for inventory. Shepherd's likeness, Panther likeness. Okay, that's interesting. Do you think that's like a moral compass type thing? There's no instructions, but I'm guessing nice button. Yeah, it's a lot bigger in person. There's this group called the Shepherds. You can't miss them. They practically run everything on campus. And then there's Panther. Keeps to himself. Everyone warns me he's bad news, but who knows? So do you want to meet Panther, or should I introduce you with Shepherds? Should we start with the Shepherds?
Yeah, okay, let's do a Shepherd playthrough.
Straight for the Shepherds. Let's see if they live up to the hype. Follow me. The Shepherds are usually by the front of the school. Okay, what do you think the buttons might be?
W, S, and D, or...
Oh yeah, I can turn... Oh, blimey. There we go. I walk very slowly. Run with a shift. Thank God for that.
Yeah, okay. So
Shepherds. Pop up then. Talk to Shepherds. This is Alex, just started here today. Thought I'd give him the grand tour. Welcome to Blackridge. Let's just call it, I don't know, Bob.
Anya?
President of the Student Council. Everyone calls us the Shepherds. So spotless the front lawns are. Okay. Aren't the janitors responsible for the front lawn? There are fewer janitors this year. The school's tight on funds, so the Shepherds stepped in to run a clean campus campaign. Getting involved in a clean campus campaign? Think about it. Let me settle in first. Please take this flyer instead of joining the campaign. I'm not sure I like the Shepherds. They feel a bit annoying. Is that just rumours? Panther thinks it's funny to leave wrappers around or scatter flyers. He's trouble. Okay, copy the text. If you find a notebook with a shepherd on it, can you please return it? It contains plans that will help with the clean campaign. Carry on dialogue. Find and return Shepherd's book. Let's go talk to Panther. Oh, so carry on dialogue means... God. Sarah can move pretty quick. How come I can't instantly teleport around like Sarah can? Panther. Is your Panther and I'm Alex. Figured I'd see the rumours match reality. Just so I want you. Should we be? You're the dangerous outcast everyone warns about. What should we go for?
Well, let's see if we can do what the Shepherds say and accuse them of being dangerous outcasts.
Maybe just slap a label on me. You can go find your seat with the rest. I'm just curious about who's leaving trash scattered around the school. It's not me. Oh, here we go. You're a mystery. So it's not the Panther. Something. Shepherds want to control everything. I don't know who's right or wrong, but maybe things aren't as simple as they seem. Okay. I want to find and return the item. Look on the other side of the school. Right. Let's slowly. Run very slowly. Run. I've stopped running now. Look on the other side of the school. What? No, I can't see because my head's in the way. Right. She definitely said run around the other side of the school, didn't she?
Yeah.
But she meant
the invisible wall there. Does it just mean over near where the Shepherds are?
That floor over there.
There is something.
If the Shepherds cannot see that from where they are, they're the world's most useless trash picker-uppers.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether or not this is some sort of hazing ritual where you're new and they just like throw litter everywhere for you to try and make you pick it up.
It says Shepherds on the front. Must be important. So the Shepherds like me slightly more than Panther likes me at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lead into that, shall we? So let's get back to the Shepherds. Slowly run to the Shepherds. E, give them a book. Okay. Oh snap! Oh snap! School's starting. We'll go in here. Oh yes, there we go. There we go. Teacher, settle down, everyone. We're already ahead of the curriculum. I thought we'd have a more relaxed session today. Give those brains a break. We have a new student joining us, Alex. Introduce myself. What do you reckon? Should I be very positive, or just say hello?
Let's go very positive. We're all about positivity.
It'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure if that had any effect, but right. Like an open seat anywhere you like. Yeah. So I've got the shepherds over here, and I've got Panther over here. Do you think this is a diegetic choice?
I think it probably is.
I'm going to sit with Panther. Oh, press E to sit next to the shepherds. Okay, so the one I thought was next to Panther isn't.
Would you just have to get close?
That's the one that's next to Panther. All right.
Okay.
Sure. It's an open seat. Yeah. So which way these are going, to be honest. Like, so say for example that I wanted to get chummy with Panther here.
Yeah.
Which one do you reckon would do that? Middle one?
Middle one. You might be good company.
If I wanted to go with the shepherds, probably the first one or the second
suggesting
one.
that there's an alternative reason. I wish I could sit in the back row without being next to Panther or something.
Seats, not exactly. Well, let's they all like us now. Okay. Oh, they're going to show us some evidence. A picture of Damon littering, a scrunched up cleaning can. Choose option. Looks like Damon is the one. Did we find them? That's me. I didn't find a picture of Damon littering.
Yeah, we just found a book, right? Unless the book had a picture in it.
He's trying to pin it on Damon then.
Mm-hmm.
Of Panther. So this is slightly odd because it doesn't give me dialogue. It gives me.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether or not this is placeholder, and they.
Yeah. It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's call them out. Supposed to be good to the shepherds this one, but I just didn't like them. Short quiz, I fancy. That's the teacher again. Stay behind or leave with Sarah. Should we leave with Panther?
Sure.
Good call. I mean, Panther sounds like he's a bit of a numpty as well, doesn't he? Let's get out of here.
Is there a playthrough where we don't make friends with anyone?
So I can stand up, press E to pick up book. Oh, the books. So these are the books I was having to pick up. So I can pick up. So I've said I'm not doing it, and now I'm picked up a book anyway.
Oh, you just steal people's books? Oh no, right. This is for tidying up. Yeah, okay.
Book. Is that a book on there, or is that just a bit of table? It's a table. Right, and then let's just leave. That's the way I rock and roll. Just stealing all the books. Blackridge Daily. Blackridge School shuts down to poor hygiene. Final stats. Panther lightness, Shepherd's lightness ending 1. So I didn't get those stats. So a little bit buggy. Okay. So that's the framing then. So I've got the encounter outside the school, the encounter in the classroom, and then off we go. So I'm going to go in, and this time I'm going to ignore that pesky Panther person, and I'm going to sort this school out with the shepherds.
Yep.
See what happens.
Okay.
So while I'm doing that, let's talk about things like presentation.
Yeah. So we want to consider the graphics, the audio, and the information design. Graphics, I would say, are consistent. I'm not sure if they're appealing. But...
They're a bit blocky and weird, aren't they? And there's a slight difference between the buildings and the characters. But they're very workable.
What assets they could find, and they're consistent with each other.
Yeah, sort of.
feel they're semi-transparent and really blurry, like they've been scaled up from a thumbnail image or something.
Yeah.
But it's a minor thing.
Yeah.
What about audio? Have you got any audio?
There's just a bit of background music, but it doesn't sort of seem to correspond to anything that's going on. It's just constantly there. It's not out of place. But I've got no sound effects. Information design. I mean, that gives me a lot of information I need to know. Given that there's only one object to pick up, and if I click on it, it doesn't tell me anything interesting, I would probably have just put these as bits of information on the main screen.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with it exactly. It's just a bit overkill for the extent of the what's here at the moment.
You might technically end up with an inventory full of books at the end, but I don't think it does very much.
So, okay, how am I doing? So I was trying to get up with the shepherds. I'm going to go and sit with the panthers. Shepherds. By mistake. Well, I can't sit at that desk apparently. So there are two desks next to Panther. One of them is me sitting next to the shepherds.
Yeah. So it's
not going to let me sit
down.
As
the shepherds and the same column as the Panther. Just like could have been easier to just get rid of the seat that's in the middle and make it really obviously sit on one side of the room or the other.
I might have found a bug here because I can't sit down. Oh, I can pick up book.
Oh. So if we accidentally jumped into the end game phase. Out of interest, is the book in your inventory? I doubt it's going to do anything, but... Okay. Can you click on those?
That's my Damon one. Cleaning campaign. This one is your notebook. This is a notebook. Use what to show the council. I think it's gone a bit confused here, but okay.
So we found a reason for the inventory to exist. There is some stuff in the inventory. We never discovered it because...
Well, they never told us it was in there.
Yeah. I suppose we were told somewhere in the story that there exists a photo, and we didn't think on the first run through to check whether we happened to have it in our pocket.
Pressuring Damon here. Let's get it. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. Dream. Yeah. Keep pressuring. Bluff more about more photos. Or can set them up. What should we do?
That feels like an interesting decision.
Yeah.
I like the narrative implications of bluff more.
It's going to keep pressuring, I think.
Yeah.
We'll handle it privately. There's a lot of text. Done enough. Show us a photo. It's the quiz multiple choice. Willing to stay behind. I will stay behind. I'm being a goody two shoes. When you are done, you can walk to the next class. All right, let's see if I can pick the books up now. Yeah, so did we finish with the presentation?
We didn't choose a mark for it. So
I mean, I'm thinking so sort of satisfactory is
workable, effective, but some inconsistencies. I think we're probably there.
And it feels there. Yeah, it's perfectly workable. So I don't have to give him back the books. So I just have to. He wants me to steal the books. So I must have misunderstood that last time. So let's see what happens. So we were honest. New student becomes a shepherd and works with Panther for a cleaner school. Ending 3. Okay. We've got a different ending. Controls and mechanics. The controls are okay. It's a bit like wading through treacle. But they're fine. Mechanics though. I can walk around. I can talk. I can select options. I can pick stuff up. I can look in the inventory and read the descriptions.
And sometimes stuff in the inventory seems to trigger more dialogue with all the photo and things.
I'm just
Which is maybe
joking.
the most important one, right? The most important one really is the go and pressure Damon about I've got this photo of you,
Yeah,
which we missed the first time.
yeah. So I think it's kind of mechanics wise. Um, it just seems it's very simple and straightforward, but it does work okay. I mean, what would a pass be?
So we'd say challenging, simple game with few mechanics or awkward controls, may have serious bugs.
It's better than that, I think.
Better than that, satisfactory is playable, so simpler game with fewer mechanics, usable controls, may have some minor bugs.
Feels like that's where we are.
Yeah.
Also, I don't appear to be able to sit down anymore. Why is that? I sat down fine the first time. I've managed to pick these up from somewhere, but I'm not sure where. I just sort of have them.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So looking at my inventory, if I just don't do anything, I just.
I'm a little confused that the dialogue says, "What would you like to show to the council?" in a room that presumably is not the council room.
So it seems quite confused at the end. I'm not quite sure why I've got the stuff. And then I didn't help. I didn't clean up anything. I didn't show them anything, and I got the same ending as the last time. So
yeah, the ending seems to be based on whether you are popular with one group, the other group, or both groups. But it seems as though you start with relatively high approval with both, and it drops down when you annoy them. This means that if you interact with nothing, you haven't dropped down favor with either groups, and you get the good ending of have successfully managed everything.
If I to him.
Do you think it's this interaction that gives you the stuff in your inventory?
Shall we?
Yeah.
I can press I now and have a look. Nothing in there now. A lot of text. Find and return item. See, I haven't talked to the shepherds yet.
Mm-hmm.
Text. What's that on the ground over
there? That's okay. What does that do?
What's the amulet?
Does that count as litter? Sounds like it's not litter.
There is a bin over here.
Yeah. Can you put stuff in the bin? Yeah.
So we hadn't quite decided where we were controls, had we? So we said it sounded a bit better than a pass. So I guess that's a satisfactory level.
I think it's satisfactory. Usable controls, some minor bugs was about right. Next, we'll look at the story engine, game world to story, and story to game world. So
I'm going to try to sit down again. It still won't let me sit down. It's weird. It let me sit down the first time, no problem. Okay, so let's think about the story engine then. So, have I got anything yet? I've picked these things up now. They come out of nowhere.
Is it just when you walk into the classroom? They're like,
I think they just appear in your pocket. So if we think about, say, game world to story, there is clearly an impact there because I find stuff. So I find the book. No, it does not. Stuff that actually impacts the story just appears, doesn't it? So if I find the book, it affects my popularity.
Yeah.
But
you found the amulet. The amulet, as far as we can tell, doesn't do anything.
So if I was finding the Polaroid, then that would feel like it had more effect.
Yeah. In particular, on the basis that the framing of the story here is that someone's littering. It's very surprising to me that there isn't litter scattered around the floor and that you can go and pick up the litter and that there's some clues mixed in with the litter. Yeah.
I think they've, to be honest with you, I think they've made the mistake I mean, they've made a narrative game, but the emphasis is very much on the narrative, right?
Yeah.
And I think that wasn't quite what we were asking for here. We were asking for a game where it's much more balanced. It's just not enough gameplay. So if they had made if they'd made a kind of a litter collection game and then put this story with it, then it probably would have been a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Like, if it's against the clock, try and pick up as many bits of litter as you can, interspersed with these cutscenes or something that tries to let you figure out where it comes from. Then we've got a real interplay between game and narrative. Like in this sort of case, what are you doing between the bits of the narrative? And the answer is you're walking to the next bit of narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not even. It doesn't even have the walking simulator excuse of saying, "Well, that's a way of giving you environmental storytelling." Really. It said, "Pick up the books and put them on the shelf." There is no shelf. Oh, there is.
There's a shelf. Shelf in the corner.
Shelf. I didn't spot that.
Is that interaction?
Shelf.
Oh.
Yeah.
Has that had an effect on it? I think.
So I framed Panther and put the books back. Same ending. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of game world to story, there's not much going on in the game world. This whole discussion now is going to be problematic because you almost do nothing in the game world, right? You just walk between encounters. So does that make any difference to the story? Not really. So it doesn't matter where I go. I suppose you could argue picking up the books and putting them on the shelf, maybe.
I would say the very generous interpretation is if you remember to check your inventory, you find an item that progresses the story.
Yes. Yeah. So what would be a pass for game world to story?
A few sparse or minor examples of where the game world impacts the story.
I arguably just get there. What would be a poor?
Some support for story elements in the game, but the game world has no real impact on the story.
I think it feels a bit better than that.
Yeah, I think we're probably between them, in my opinion.
I think you're probably right.
Like, in some areas, we're close to this notion of support for story elements, but no real impact because they've teed up places where there could have been interactions, but because the game doesn't have enough gameplay happening, that gameplay doesn't actually tie in, right?
So if we go the other way round, so this is story to game world. So this is the story interactions here. I'm making choices in the story. Does the story impact the game world at all? Does it make any difference to the...
Does it give you access to different items that you can go and collect?
Or different spaces, or give me different areas to explore, or... It doesn't, does it?
I don't think so. You can check whether you can go into the school building without talking to either of the people.
You can, yeah.
But like, even if it were true that you need to talk to the people before you're allowed to go to school, it's not really clear why talking to the people would be a narrative decision that affects your gameplay there.
Yeah. So, yeah, like there, for example, but I talk to Panther, I just go into the school anyway.
Yeah. It may have an effect on what dialogue you get, but that's narrative to narrative as opposed to narrative to game.
Yes. So I don't think there's anything you do that impacts the story. Sorry, anything you do in the story, any conversations you have that make any difference to the game world at all. I think we have to record that one as absent. Yeah. I think of what I would do if I was trying to put that in here. I think what I would do is I would
well, I sort of vaguely pitched this idea that there's a whole bunch of litter, you're against the clock, you have to go pick it up. If that's the gameplay element, then the narrative to gameplay is something about if you discover who's causing the litter, they stop throwing litter on the floor subtly, and they just go into rage monster mode and just throw litter at you all over the place.
Yeah. Or perhaps in your discussions with people, you discover new places to clear up litter, or
or you
something along those lines. Yeah,
you recruit other players
or they're helping
to help you clean up the litter or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You could plausibly have something where you go talk to the guy, the Panther, and Panther says, "I've got a big trash bag for you," or something, and now you do something different in the game because you talk to Panther.
It's now asking me who should I sit with, but again, I don't have it's sort of odd. And my inventory, look, and I've got my likeness, if you like. So my popularity with them both is maxed. Yeah. Okay. So that takes us on to the next one, which is kind of the techniques bit.
I think we've got to do agency, richness of choices first.
Thank you. So, well, what are my choices? So I can be nice to Panther. I can agree to help the shepherds. I can find their book or not. I choose where to sit, although that's not quite working. I can choose whether to put the books back. So there's a number of choice points. So the questions are the interesting choice points, the informed choice points. I think they by setting it in this kind of social simulation, as it were, they've kind of, it is inherently interesting because it's a social interaction, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're consistent with each other in the sense that, who you sit with and who you talk to first are kind of the same decision. They do at least line up in that regard. So I'm kind of feeling a bit like you make one interesting choice, which is which group you're going to be friends with.
Yes, that's the problem.
And then the narrative doesn't push you hard enough, I think, to make you change your mind at any point. So you don't think about the rest of the decisions. You stick with the decisions you've already made.
Yeah, you want to have something that makes you question the decisions that you've made, don't you? That kind of causes you to kind of...
They've got elements. I think they've set the seeds for it with things like each group accuses the other one of being the person who's dropping litter.
Yeah.
And no matter who you talk to first, if you go and talk to the other one, you will get someone who tells you, think a little bit harder, you chose the wrong group first. Yeah. And I think that's sort of one example of those decisions becoming interesting. So I think we need a few more interactions like that, where the shepherds tell us why they're ostracizing Panther. Is it just that he's been dropping litter, or does the Panther come up with some other reason that says, oh yeah, no, I used to be a shepherd and they kicked me out for this reason, we had a big fight or something?
So in terms of the criteria then, so we've got several points of decisions, but those decisions aren't really interesting because they're ultimately just one decision.
Yeah, so I think the pass mark here, some choices, but only a few are interesting. I think they had potential to be built into a number of interesting choices, which would be the next category up, but where we're at the moment is the pass. Okay, after that, then we're going on to storytelling techniques and pacing.
So storytelling techniques, there's some nice bits. I like the kind of little cinematics at the beginning to show you the school with that. And then they've got the dialogue. They're missing, they really could have done probably with some environmental storytelling. I think that would have helped a lot because although they do make the point that school's clean because the shepherds are cleaning up, so perhaps that is counting. There's also the newspaper at the end. So I think they have used actually a number of techniques to try and tell the story. And they're quite effective. Like the newspaper is quite nice. The dialogue is good. It probably maybe even a bit too heavy, I would say. I'm zooming through it a bit too much really because I'm bored of reading about janitors and cleaning. But they've got several different things. They're done relatively well. So what would a good be?
Yeah, this sounds about right. Successful use of more than one game writing technique. We've seen a few, and they've been.
I think they've done right. Yeah. What would be what would be an excellent?
Use of more than one game writing technique and mechanics support theme. Do we have that synergy?
No, I don't think so because there aren't really any mechanics. The thing I'm actually doing doesn't really support the story, so I think it's at the good level.
Yeah. What about pacing then? Does it feel like the story and the gameplay are progressing both?
I wouldn't say so. You've got the discussions outside, then you come in, and almost straight away you're into the who do you accuse bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think I agree with you. I might put it this way. Would the game feel much different if your first decision was who do you sit next to? And then the second decision was you go out into the playground and you get to talk to the people. I think it feels the same, which means that the pacing isn't descending.
It feels like it needs a sort of confrontational scene of some sort, which isn't just done in dialogue, and it's kind of missing. So what would be a pass for pacing?
Pacing unclear or flat. Beyond that, a satisfactory says some ascending pacing.
Yeah, I think it's unclear or flat. It just kind of the game just kind of happens.
The sort of thing for a suggestion there. If you're saying we should have a conflict scene in the middle, imagine if there was a falling out between two of the shepherds, which we're almost setting up with. Is it Damon and?
Yeah, I'm going to bluff as well.
One of the others. Yeah, this one here is almost enough, and I think the point here for the storytelling, the way that the pacing progresses, is that we kind of need that conflict to come to the front of the story by itself, to give you as the player something to bounce off of. You need to decide who you're going to back when a new conflict arises.
Okay.
And the last bit we need to consider is feedback. So let's see
what did they say for feedback.
So they say originally they had a 2D game with the sole mechanic of clicking on text box, and they were told that they need more. Which certainly is
absolutely true, and the problem is they haven't given us much more. They
responded by making the game 3D and adding the mechanic of movement, so you can go and pick items up. I'm just not convinced necessarily that those things that they've added have actually added any richness to the story or any depth to the gameplay.
They haven't understood what the feedback was, right? The feedback was saying there is not enough game, right? Not the environment isn't complex enough.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they've spent their time and effort making the environment more complex, but they've not added any more game, right? And yes, adding the movement is adding a mechanic, and you've got that element to it, but they needed to do something with it, right? Which is why you and I were talking earlier on about the picking up the litter or having some element of why moving around is important, right? Because the movement here isn't important. They could have replaced it by a map, and then just click on here to talk to the shepherds, click on here to talk to the panther, click on here where to sit, right? And it was fine. So yeah, unfortunately I think that they've responded to that feedback, but they haven't understood it.
Yeah.
And that's caused a lot of the problems that we're picking up on in our conversation here.
Separately, they say implemented a fully functional inventory system which serves as a mechanic to help advance dialogue. I'm not sure what that's in response to. I suppose that's part of the there's not enough gameplay feedback as well. And they were also told that the dialogue shouldn't only affect the affinity, but should also affect the subsequent dialogues. There's branching dialogues, so the dialogue does change based on what other dialogue is made. So that's good. That's mostly story to story stuff. We kind of we need the extra step, right? The thing that we keep coming back to is if the story affects the story, there's a missing step in the middle, which is game. We need story to affect game to then affect story, and having the playing phase in between them. It doesn't always have to be separate phases of story, game, but we're missing that phase in the middle.
Right. So is there any more feedback, or is that
no, that's what they've got.
So again, I suppose what would the pass be for feedback?
Feedback was addressed, but the changes have had limited success.
Or B.
Feedback was not addressed well, although some other positive changes have been made. And we might be between them.
It feels not far away from that, right? They have made changes, but they've not really understood why they were asked to make those changes.
Yeah.
and then they haven't solved the problem. So that does feel more like a maybe halfway between a pour and a pass.
Yeah, I think that's where I would settle as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I think that the story here is quite an interesting story, right? The social dynamics are a thing that you can really play some interesting decisions off. And so, as a text adventure, it works relatively well. Most of our feedback here, in terms of what could be improved, has all boiled down to the idea of having some gameplay that bounces off that story. Go collect cans that are littering the school field type collection game.
And maybe as you do, you discover things that then go into your inventory, which you can look at, and having looked at them, that then opens up new dialogue options where you can explore what's going on in the school.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be, you're picking up bits of litter, and one of the litter pieces is a receipt. If you take the time to read through the receipt, you learn a whole bunch of information about the story. And if you try and do better at the game, you just toss it all in the garbage bag.
Yeah, or the photo. I mean, they've got the photo already. The photo's here, right? So is that a brick? And what's going on in the corner over here? Shepherd's book. What's that? A book that says Shepherds on. Okay, must be important. Okay.
Same book as before.
Same book as before. So, I think that's really what they're missing. They need to have that story element, and then they can do all the interweaving that we've been looking for. And so the conceptualization is good, the social story is good, but it just needed to be embedded in an actual game rather than just something where you wander around and explore the dialogue. Yeah. Okay, let's get on to our next game. Okay, so our final game is called The Panther.
You can guess which fable this is based on. Well, that's a beautiful start screen.
Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like a cracked mirror. Yeah, very nicely done. The Panther start. Yeah,
and a little bit of music.
Really simple. Music's appropriate. Let's click start.
Let's hope that's a show of what's to come.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was I just now? Press space or return key to continue.
Are we looking at a fragment of a mirror?
It seems my tricky ability is getting out of hand. I suppose introductions are in order. I'm a meddling inhabitant of this town. Dummy Grove? Dummew Grove? There. I have an ability that sets me apart from others and may be the key to helping me solve the mystery, you see. I can temporarily swap bodies with another individual, typically for no longer than a day. Sometimes it can get a little out of hand, just now, and I slip into their dreams, which can lead to some unsavory discoveries. It seems that whoever is planning to commit these acts of violence intends to do so very soon. Help me crack this mystery before the disaster takes place. I estimate that we only have about 3 days to investigate. No idea how he knows all these things, or she knows all these things, but
we've got a time traveling body swapper, I think.
We'll use the map to find my way to the people of interest in this town. Okay? Different schedules will make this a hard task, but the pins on the map will let me know who is available. The clock on the map will help me make sure I don't lose track of time. I'll keep track of notes by using my trusty investigation log. I like this, giving me a little intro to all of their tools at the top here.
Yeah. I'm also glad I don't feel too overwhelmed. Like sometimes you're told all of the things and then you're worried that you'll need them all immediately. I can kind of trust here that we're going to need them one at a time and we're going to be able to check them again when we need them.
After infiltrate conversation, pretend to be people I'm not, who know things I don't. So some conversation may seem confusing at first to go with that. So I have to say, from someone who kind of does a lot of research and things into sort of narrative design, they're setting themselves up here with a very challenging task. Let's see where we get on. Right. Day 1. Previous and next. What do you think previous and next do? Oh, these are who I can be. Okay. So day 1, I can be these people.
Oh, okay. This is the mechanic of who,
So I can be Jenny, John, Priscilla, or Barney.
And I can certainly imagine that you're going to get different information out of people based on who you're posing
and on what day you go into them as well. So owner of the Grove's only successful hair salon. So got some relationships there. We don't really know what they are.
but we do get some indication, certainly maybe from the second day onwards, it'll be relevant. If we really want to talk to, that chief superintendent, then we can probably pick the person who is going to be successful at that interaction.
But John, he's the writer. Priscilla, she's the medical director of the General Hospital. And we've got Barney, the police constable. You should go first.
I wonder whether or not we choose the police guy so that we can talk to the policey type NPCs to at least kick off our investigation. They're likely to have names of people that we want to go and track down.
Scroll horizontally and vertically to go through the map. Crikey, I think my scroll wheel is a bit slow.
Sensitivity. Okay.
That works all right.
So we've got
I was just about to say, I wish I could just drag around, but I can.
Oh, perfect.
Thank God for that. Right, okay, so... Also, I'm not quite sure why I have to scroll.
Yeah.
Zoom out slightly. Okay, so looks like I've got two places I can go. I can go to John's house. He's available 9 till 12. Or I can go to Barney's house. Available 9 till 12 again.
Looking at the clock, it appears to be 9 at the moment, although I can't quite tell which is.
I suppose that's why they're showing up, I guess. So should we try John? He's the writer. Barney. Who's Barney? I forgot who Barney was now. Let's have a chat to Barney. Barney's a woman. Oh, Lilith. Lilith, I take you don't believe me anymore. Okay, because we're the police guy, aren't we? So do we? What do you reckon? I can't be sure either way. I still trust you.
We're posing as the investigator, right? So I suspect we shouldn't really tell people that we trust them. Interestingly, I still trust you, though. It sounds as though
yes, there's something going on.
So we're inhabiting as well.
Yeah, we could be the police guy, right? At least you're committed to your job, I guess. Okay. Oh, space. And thank you for bringing me my father's watch. That does me not to me, but I can't talk to you anymore. Whilst you're still after me, we're done now. I'm sorry.
Okay. Ooh, so bribery and subterfuge and
something
stuff going
on. Okay, and then so if I click on Gypsy John. Thank you for trying to defend my niece, but that was then. I can't talk to you now. John, this is your last chance to clear her name. Is there anything you know? There is. That night, when I found the body, he had left a note. I burnt it. I couldn't bear it. Lilith had to endure knowing what happened. If I'd only told her back then, she wouldn't be in this whole mess. Okay. Oh, please leave me, Barney. So, looks like we've moved on now.
Yeah, later in the day, some other places to visit.
Okay, so we've got Priscilla's house. Were you looking for my husband? Lilith? So part of the problem, I think, jumping into this is there's quite a few characters. So I know it's all part of the mystery is to try and figure out who everyone is and how it fits together. But
it feels a little like you need a notepad and pen outside the game and jot some stuff down. I recognise that they don't necessarily want to consume half the screen with here's all the evidence you've collected, but it makes it a little bit harder to play through and to find the links.
The only person who could have killed him was Lilith. So John found a note, but burnt it.
Yeah. Not clear whether or not the note is like a blackmail note that implicates someone as the murderer, or whether the note means something else.
Lilith killed him. You will never convince me otherwise. I'm telling you this purely for the sake of our beloved friend. I don't actually know who died.
No, we don't know the name of the deceased.
So yes,
there's a suggestion of someone who wanted out, leaving a note. So there's potential other plot routes here.
Whole problem with the alibi. Lilith killed my friend Barney. Left his daughter without a note, but John said he found a note.
Yeah.
So now we'll be back at 9 o'clock.
And this can't be next day, because I would imagine we get the chance to jump into being somebody else on the next day.
Yeah, we got another. So let's go. So this is Jenny. My confession. So, Jenny's confessed. Leave me alone.
Oh.
Right here, these ones. Joseph. Trying to put a murderer behind bars where she belongs. Oh, this is the police inspector, by the looks of it.
Yeah.
He's at the bar. Why are you always so sure she killed him? Okay.
I think that counts as environmental storytelling, right?
Simply a case that was like, she lied about her alibi. Ask her about why was she the most likely suspect. Always been trouble anyway. She was the only one in that place who else would have done it. Who's disliked Lilith? Right, so Lilith has been accused. Oh, liar. Well, also. Okay. She's innocent. Obvious. She ruined what I had with my girl. Done with this. Should we annoy him? Let's annoy him and see if he says anything. Oh, he does. A2. Okay, so what do we know? Somebody died.
Yeah.
Jenny confessed, but no one seems to believe her or something. Everyone thinks that Lilith did it.
We've got George here. Is George brackets deceased, or is the brackets deceased separate?
Yeah. I think that might be old. Yeah, that's got to be old friend deceased.
Yeah.
So Priscilla basically thinks it's Lilith because there's no note, but John says
knows there's a note.
Knows there's a note. Should we? Well, Jenny didn't talk to us much. Should we be Jenny?
I think it'd be interesting to see who talks to Jenny as the person who has supposedly confessed. Because if there are multiple people involved, then other people who are involved are likely to talk to the person who is,
So John took the note. Jenny also has different coloured eyes.
Yeah.
So I reckon either John or Jenny. What do you reckon?
I think Jenny.
Jenny? Jenny. So let's go up here, go to the hospital and talk to Lilith. I want to see you. So Lilith isn't... Priscilla's not interested in talking to us because she thinks we murdered them anyway. Go talk to Lilith. I say to you, what happened that night? Going to visit you like we had planned. If you still trust your damn ex, leave me alone. Was her ex? Can't remember. I could do with. You could almost do with having like being able to bring up their profiles to remind yourself what their relationships were and things.
That would be quite helpful, yeah. If maybe there was a little picture of each person's face and you could hover over just to remind you who is this person.
This is Barney. So this is about the case. Yeah, it's about formal proceedings anyway, so I might as well. I think you judged her too quickly. There was no solid evidence. Died by overdose to on the alibi. So I'm confused about. I'm missing because I thought Lily had confessed, and that's what she said last time. But our place it was still smouldering when we arrived at the scene. Okay, it doesn't add up. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Died by overdose. There seemed to be no attempt to hide that. So. Okay. So the person died, John found the body and the note, burnt the note. Someone else had an alibi, but I'm not sure who that was. So the attitude, Lyle. Broke up. Okay. Little friend that killed her old man. So it was her friend who was the person who's run away.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. Out. Done here. A little flash of change on the face there as she got angry with us. Talk to. Let's go talk to. Yes, did she say anything to you about that night? To ask you to forgive me. That day I did something deeply wrong that has hurt my niece. And she doesn't know it. Yeah, you can tell me. Let me explain. Lilith wasn't home. She didn't lie. She didn't lie. While she was out, I called my brother, but he didn't pick up, so I went over and found. Keep going. He left a note in his writing in his signature. Lilith no killed me. He took his own life. So it was Lilith who. But I took the note and I burned it in his fireplace. I couldn't let know what her father had been going through. Later I decided. Oh, the space button has stopped completing the text and started skipping.
Right.
Those accused my innocent niece for the death of my poor brother. They wouldn't have been able to. It's one for me. I could save her now, life for life. I'm sorry for her. Ask her forgiveness, not mine. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Your confession helped us in the case. Sure, that's done now. Your confession. I'm playing as Jenny, right?
Yes, you're the person who confessed at the moment.
Why am I in prison or anything then? It's a bit weird. So John, Lilith is his niece. George, so is George the one who died then?
Yeah, I think so.
His brother, older brother. So Lilith is George's daughter. And Jenny has confessed. She used to be good friends with Lilith. Crikey.
Yeah, so I think what's going on here is that we have Lilith has been accused. Jenny has decided for some reason that she's going to try and take the fall for it because she
and
wants to
confessed.
protect Lilith.
John found a note and says he committed suicide.
Yeah.
And Priscilla, we don't know. Should we be Priscilla? Because we don't know much about Priscilla.
Yeah, that could work.
So she's the wife of Joseph, the superintendent.
Yeah. We probably get information potentially about manner of death.
Lilith goes to speak to her glowering face. Leave me alone. Okay. His house. Believe anything I said about her before. If you and your husband are still convinced she's guilty, I'm not sure there's much we can talk about. I'm not sure this is going to get us very far. Let's have a look. John's house. It's again lecturing me about my medication. What medication? You prescribed me for years, the one you prescribed my brother too. Okay, good actually. I was thinking of asking Lilith to help me keep track of it while she's here. Interesting. So she was helping him with his medication.
Right. So there's potential for foul play
shenanigans,
or,
yeah.
Yeah.
Your own father, your friend, with the medication you prescribed him. Told you, her father died from an overdose on that medicine, and she lied about where she was that night. She killed the poor man with that dose and tried to pretend she knew nothing about it. So why didn't Jenny say something then if she went over to Jenny's house? Symbol. Is that just scribble? I've been wondering about the notebook. I've been trying to. I thought they'd pop up on the map screen. It'd be a way of having a look what you find out so far.
Does this indicate that you can copy down some bits of info or something?
Scribble noise, like we were writing it down.
Yeah. Okay.
About his depression. Oh, Snow. Maybe his brother. Go. Timeline. So this is where we have to try and solve the case.
Yeah. We've got.
You think it goes? So we've got to put it in order.
Yeah.
We've met this person. We've met the others. Lilith leaves the town. George's death is reported to the police.
So, presumably, the notes that you can drag there go in the timeline somewhere.
Yes, that's right. Here we go.
I imagine people go in the notes, and then the notes go in the timeline.
That seems right. So and so risks his. So does Joseph? Do you think? Can I pick Joseph up? Oh yeah, Joseph.
You might have to connect pin to pin.
Joseph risks his reputation to defend George. So these are different colours or something. So George died from an overdose of his medication.
Yeah, okay. That probably happens pretty early in the timeline.
Well, so I don't be able to. I can't sort of put it in the timeline actually. I can't drag it down now.
We also had somebody's father died of an overdose, right? Was it
Lilith? So Lilith is George's daughter.
Yeah. Yes, right.
Joseph, what did I say? For George Davis and died by overdose of his medication. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That filled in automatically. So do you think they only fill in if I get them right?
Perhaps. I guess we should try and do a proper solve the first time through if we can speed run to the end and try and break it badly.
We're gonna struggle. I think we're gonna struggle to do a second run of this game because it's too much thinking.
Yeah.
So somebody accuses something of murder. Somebody finds the body and burns the note. That's John, right?
Yeah.
So where's John gone? John finds the body and burns the note that George had left.
Yeah.
So that's correct, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
The bottom left event is someone and someone break up. I think this is Lyle and Jenny.
Pick up sometime later. No, I disconnect them. They're connected. They're connected.
Right.
George conducted a stop and search on somebody. George took his own life while home alone.
I think so.
Okay. So George took his own life while home alone. John finds the body and burns the note he'd left. So and so believes her boyfriend. That's got to be Jenny believes her boyfriend Lyle.
I suppose they broke up. If this was early, then Jenny can believe her boyfriend Lyle, then they break up.
There we go. So that's right. And then we've got that night something was heading to see. Oh, that's Lilith, wasn't it? Lilith was heading to see Jenny.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
as it
It
attached to the wrong pin.
to the wrong pin. That's a blow.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that, we know that was prescribed by somebody else.
Priscilla did the prescribing, certainly.
Yeah, I can't. Well, I can't
Can't
disconnect
undo it.
them. That's
Yeah.
annoying. All right, that's a shame. Someone helped administer that was Lilith. Helped administer medication for her father George.
Sure. Yeah.
Did that go in? Yes, that went in. That's correct.
Near the top, I see someone doesn't believe the alibi as someone never arrived. I think, is it either Barney or Lyle doesn't believe the alibi because Lilith never arrived.
Yeah, let's say Barney, because Barney. She probably was Lyle, actually, thinking about it. Yeah, okay, our mistake. Something's alibi is that she was visiting. So Lilith's alibi is that she was visiting Jenny, right?
Mm-hmm. We've got someone accuses someone of murder. I think this is Priscilla accuses Lilith.
It's Lilith, yeah, seems possible. This mechanic, by the way, of doing this on a board, that's very nice.
Yeah, I do like that. I've wondered whether or not you can drag the people around as well, or are they?
They're fixed.
Yeah.
So we've got. Also, I'm not sure why they all start in the top corner. It's like it feels like they should be arrayed.
Yeah.
John finds the body. No, sorry. Somebody knew that George. So that's George was depressed, right? So,
yeah.
Who knew that George was depressed? Well, John knew that George was depressed.
Yeah, I think that's right.
You're not. Missing. Somebody receives a bad reputation for defending somebody else. Jenny? Is that Jenny?
Receives a bad Jenny reputation defending Lilith, maybe?
Lilith, maybe? Somebody gives somebody the watch from the crime scene. No idea about that.
Oh,
that's the last one. Oh, no, one more.
Someone said it, and I'm trying to remember who it was. It was in the first day of interaction. I think it was when we were playing.
We were playing as Barney. Yeah.
And Lilith was the person we spoke to, I think.
Yeah. So what? Barney gives Lilith the watch from the crime scene.
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last one is something refutes somebody's claim that he had stopped her.
So clearly that man refutes woman's claim that he had stopped her. Yeah. This is presumably Lilith claimed that she was stopped, which was why she never arrived somewhere. Yeah. And who did she tell us?
Would it be Lyle, maybe?
Yes. Oh, yes. Stop and Search by Lyle. Good.
So we filled them all. Oh, we've got one more. George conducted a stop and search on.
Maybe I don't remember this.
Between those two of them. Oh, I got a little bit right. Sorry, Lilith goes there. Filled in.
Right. Which are the bits we got right along the bottom timeline? And
so John finds the body. Lily's alibi. Jenny believes Lilith is a town. Lilith helps him with medication. Lilith was seen heading to see Jenny. George died by overdose. George's death is reported to the police. But the question is, how do we progress from here? Because I think we've.
Yeah.
All been filled in, right? So if you have a look at their game notes, does it say anything about the end of the game?
Yeah. So I think a cursory look over this. The player wins by completing the timeline of events, by completing every clue's connections correctly. This leads the player into the ending where they confront the person who's going to commit the murder and are given 3 choices of ending. So I think if we had got all of the clues correct, we'd get a outro cutscene. Not going to manage to get that in time on this playthrough. But
So how do we? If you could disconnect these, you'd be all right. But you don't appear to be able to.
yeah, so I think we have reached the end of the game because we have filled in as much as we can, and then we're stuck.
Failed. Yeah, you'd.
Yeah.
I was expecting once you'd filled them all in for it to say you have failed to solve the case, and then be able to go back and redo the day, or redo the game.
I was thinking at the least it would say, you got 8 out of 12
Yes.
correct. Would you like to try again?
Yeah, yeah. And there was one that we did by accident, so we didn't do too badly because we got 1,
I
2,
think we
3,
did pretty
4,
well,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 including the one that we misclicked. And there were 20. So, that's not too bad. It's 60% of the way there. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Well, should we restart it?
You can reload and
we just have it going through the background. I'm not entirely sure how far we're going to get with it.
I doubt we'll get to the end again, but we'll at least potentially see some different dialogue options and so on.
Here we go.
But right, we'll start at the top of the mark scheme presentation. Graphics, first thing to mention. And
the presentation's very, very nice, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Hand drawn, beautifully done. But it's not just that. It's things like these transitions, the text coming up, the font being consistent, the colour palette.
Yeah.
The music.
Vignette around the edge here. There's a lot of attention to detail in this work.
Yeah, very nice.
So I think the real decision in terms of graphics is whether we're between excellent mark would be impactful, complete, effective, and appealing, or even the prize-worthy category for memorable, completely effective and appealing with novel and especially creative elements. I feel like the graphics here is prize-worthy. What about audio and information design?
So there's a slight noise when the text flickers up. But I don't think there's any sound effects otherwise. But the audio is good. And the information design, so we missed this. So you can click the investigation log when it appears in order to save clues.
Right.
But we never really saw it again. So I think that's something we ought to try and figure out how to use on this second playthrough.
Yeah.
So I would say that in general, the information design is good, but what it's missing is what we talked about. In order to actually have a kind of summary. So maybe if the information icon is doing that, let's be John this time. John on our first day. If we go and visit Priscilla at the hospital. Do any appointments later, it's important that we check up regularly that stuff killed your brother. See, there's there it is. Why are you acting like this? You don't have to. It was your niece's job to make sure he got the right dose. Never should have trusted her for that. So, there. The other thing is, how do you need spite?
I wonder whether or not if you click the log in the right place, you basically get to auto-populate the clues at the end, where you've just done the conversation where this is Priscilla accuses Lilith of getting the dose wrong or something.
Yeah. So, sure, because there's no other way. The log's up there now. So we hadn't clicked it before. So now I can click on it and it says, Lilith helped her father George administer his medication.
Yeah, so in fact we do have a collection of information. We just didn't realise we could use it.
That was one of the things at the end, wasn't it?
Yes. So we might actually have to drag and drop fill it in for ourselves, but it might auto-populate, which would be beautiful.
As you know, and to be honest, I'm torn. That's a lot of respect around here when I put my trust in Lilith, or at least. Oh, that's bold as well. It's my title for that, and you know what my colleagues have thought of me since then, so I was able to get a father's watch to her. So the problem with this mechanic is, why would I not just click everything?
Yeah. I assume that if you do click everything, when you go and look through the information, it's cluttered, like there's just too much and it's an inconvenience to you.
But then if they fill in automatically...
yeah. It might not fill in automatically. It might be the case
Charge
that
before I was
log down
heading to
everything and then-
Jenny's. Okay, so let's record that. Pulled me over for no good reason. If I go look up here, so we've got Barney risks his reputation to defend Lilith in the murder investigation. Barney gave Lilith the watch from the crime scene. Barney receives a bad reputation for defending Lilith. Well, these are all things from the end, right?
Those are all relevant points, yeah. So see if you can record every piece of information and whether it's a downside.
I'll stop her. Boyfriend. Your boyfriend? Look now. Yeah, okay. So I didn't get much from that. Right. So day 2. Where you were Jenny on day 2 last time, weren't we? Let's be. Thank you for bringing me my father's watch. I can't talk to you anymore, not while you're still after me. Okay. Yeah. So where were we? We're talking about presentation. So I mean, I think the presentation is impactful and memorable. It all works together really nicely. I'd be happy to put it up at the prize-worthy range, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk about meaningful play then. Mechanics, controls, and bugs.
So mechanics are quite limited, right? What I'm doing is
Usually to be, I think, is.
I'm selecting text. I'm selecting items on the map.
Mm.
It doesn't look to me as well. I assumed that what would happen is I would be making choices. So it would be there are 2 things happening in this portion of the day, and you can only look at one of them. I don't think that's the case. I think it just takes me through all of the encounters for the day. So I don't think the map interface does an awful lot.
Yeah.
And then we've got the thing at the end, which I really like, which is the attaching the notes by dragging the pins.
Yeah.
That's a really nice mechanic. So we've got a couple. We've got the note mechanic as well, and we can go through our notes. So we've got a couple of nice mechanics we can use. The controls are fine. I'm not. The only thing we missed was the notepad, but they did. That was our fault. They told us about it, and it is fairly obvious as well.
Yeah.
The bugs, I don't think we've seen any bugs. So.
Yeah, I think there's the thing where you can connect stuff to a pin that's on top of another pin, which is not directly a bug. It's just a
slight problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Thing.
So in general, I think it's and I would also say this is also about the playability, and I would say it is quite fun to play. It was engaging to play.
Yeah, I think parts of this have really felt compelling.
So I think I would put the play up at the excellent. I'm trying to solve a little narrative puzzle, and I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent says higher complexity with complementary mechanics, intuitive controls, and no significant bugs. To get even higher than that, we'd have to call it wonderful, flawless execution, high complexity, and complementary mechanics, smooth control.
Yeah,
bugs.
I don't think it's quite there. I think
not flawless, but it really is excellent.
I think it's excellent. I think the complexity of the puzzle gets it there as well.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot that they've implemented, right? There's all of this gather information phase, and then there's also the put it together phase. They've worked pretty hard on this. Yeah. Let's talk about the story engine then. We want to see how the game world impacts the story, and the story impacts the game world.
This is going to be interesting. So if we talk about the game world and the story,
Mm.
So the game world, because there's so little game world.
I think I may maybe going to push back a little bit. I think that choosing who you are, I'm going to consider to be a
game world decision. Yeah. So there's two places. There's choosing the character. Right. So that's the main one, isn't it? So you choose your character, and then that does determine the story that you get to play out. And then also at the end, if you get it right, you unlock the ending bit. Right.
I'm not confident that you certainly get different information if you're playing as different players when you as different people when you talk to the suspects. But I think we have seen some different dialogue, and I feel like that's a really beautiful interplay. That on the first day you probably pick someone basically at random. Maybe you choose based on their profession or something. Yeah. But the second and third day, I was really excited by the idea of going.
Yes. It is engaging.
We can pick to be this person because of what we think it's going to get us to learn. And that's a really elegant way of getting those two to tie into each other.
I still think we're a little bit limited. I think it's done well. I mean, what would a
very good choice rather than a collection of choices?
So, what would a good?
So, for a good, we have a number of examples where the game world impacts the story, and consequently, comparatively, where the number of examples where the story impacts the game world in important ways.
I think we could say that choosing the character at the beginning of the 3 days counts for that, right?
Yeah.
What's an excellent?
For an excellent, a consistent interplay between the game world and the story, including important impacts, both ways around.
Consistent. Let's have a look at what we've got here so far. These are all the things from the end, so that's the yeah. So sorry, what was the excellent for the
So this is the consistent interplay, the game world and the story consistently playing.
Well, it's difficult, right? Because your choices do then have an impact. But making them, I think what we meant by consistent interplay was that you're continually making choices that impact the game world, right?
And so it's basically that number of examples at the good level rather than continuous.
I think so, yeah. I think so.
Yeah. And that's true both ways around, I think. What about agency then? Do we have a number of interesting choices and attempts to manage player agency, or upwards towards excellence says a network of interesting choices and an effective system for managing player agency? If we want praiseworthy, we go even beyond that, but that requires a network of interesting choices managing agency using multiple methods.
So again, the problem is the number of choices. So we've got these 3 kind of key choices, right? About who to be, and we've also got choices in the dialogues, which causes us to find out different things. So I would say that we have so the good level was a number of interesting choices, right?
Yeah, an attempt to manage player agency.
And I think we definitely have that, right? We have kind of structures to the dialogue trees. We have multiple ways of looking at the story. Those are interesting choices, like you said. We were thinking about which character to be. We were considering our options in order to try and fish for information. So all of that worked well. So I think it's definitely at the good level. The excellent requires a network of choices, right? And I'm not sure whether we quite get that, because that would mean that things that we learn in one dialogue would open up things in another dialogue.
Yeah.
Don't think we've got that here.
Yeah, I think it is true that for that network to really come to the front, then we would need things like, you already talked to this other person, therefore I don't need to tell you anything. I'm going to shut up. Or, you talk to that person and I hate them, so I'm not going to cooperate.
I think interesting, just by the way, I think what's going on here, right, is that every time that there's something in bold in the text, that is a thing I can note. And I bet you that fills in automatically. So it almost feels like there's two ways to play this game. The way that we played it the first time, where we actually tried to remember everything and figure it out. Or a kind of slightly more lazy way where you're collecting clues.
Yeah. I think it does make the game a little too easy when you know that the bolded text is just all the answers. The fact that we didn't notice it on the first playthrough speaks to the fact that it's not so obvious that it actually undercuts the game. I think it's quite nice, actually, that on a second playthrough, you go, yes, this is where the information was, and this is where the information was.
Yes. And obviously, it has the problem that the second playthrough, you've got two lots of information.
Realistically, any mystery type game, the second time you play it, you know the solution. So
okay, so what that was game world to story, right?
Yeah.
Now we have story to game world. So I suppose you would then say your choice of person impacts the places you can visit and the people you can talk to. Then your choices here.
So I guess the point is, what you learn on the first day should inform who you choose to be on the second day.
Yes. But it's not really. That's not really a. So I think this is partly down to the limited mechanical choices you have. So if you had two places you could go on day one, right, because of the time, and you had to choose, and then the other one disappeared.
Yeah.
Then what happened is that then that would be a mechanical choice. And if somebody then referenced the fact that someone hadn't been to see them, because I think the extra layer of complexity, and I think it would be, I wouldn't expect them to have done this, but they would have needed to have done it to demonstrate it, would be if these characters were referencing what you were doing as the characters in later days.
Yeah.
So John here never talks about what any of the other characters did on day one. He only talks about day zero, right? So I think they need to do that in order to demonstrate, and then you might be able to argue, well, there's some mechanical effect going on here, right? The fact that I was playing as Jenny and I went to see Lyle is then mentioned by Lilith, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's two possibilities, right? Like, you either have the gameplay effect where your choices of who you were the first day changes the dialogue on the second day, or the easier one that you proposed there, just you can only visit someone at 9 a.m. and you can't visit the other person simultaneously.
Yeah.
So yes, I suppose if they had been a little bit more constrictive on what information you get, you can't just go and visit everyone, then the gameplay effects would have been more significant.
I mean, I feel slightly bad suggesting it because that's so hard to design correctly.
Yeah.
Right? But I think they've inherently set themselves up for that challenge by picking a kind of mystery game.
Yeah, and I want to say at this point that it's a very well done mystery game in terms of the mystery is interesting to read through and learn.
Yeah.
That often isn't the case with mystery stories.
This is interesting. None of these have been filled in, and we don't have access to our notebook. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So now, okay. So I think if they should have given us a chance to read our notebook before coming to this screen, I think.
And I think maybe a notable point that ties in what you were saying about only getting to visit a certain number of people each day, maybe ties into what we've got here, where your implicit score is how many of these things did you successfully fill in.
Yeah.
And it might be reasonable that if you can only visit, enough places to actually have the information for half of these clues, then you have to make some guesses about the other ones.
Yes.
And in that case, then the difference between getting everything right versus getting 90% right versus 70% right or something, there's more gradation in the score. The way that they've implemented it here, you either get everything right and something special happens, or you get anything wrong and you get the not quite right outcome. It is worth, if you can get everything perfectly right on this playthrough, we might see the special bonus ending.
Yeah, so Jenny believes, let's try to see if we can do it. Jenny believes her boyfriend Lyle? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody refutes claim that, so Lyle refutes Lilith's claim.
Yeah.
Doesn't believe the alibi as somebody never arrived.
Lilith never arrived.
He doesn't believe the alibi.
Is it Priscilla? I'm not sure.
So Lilith's alibi is that she was visiting Jenny.
Yeah.
Somebody accuses, so we said Priscilla last time, I can't remember if that was right. Somebody so John finds the body and burns the note that George had left. George was depressed. In fairness, Priscilla knew that as well.
Didn't
go in, did it?
No.
That's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think we should have gone for Priscilla, but they both knew.
Yeah.
Oh, what happens if I put there? Priscilla knew. You can change it that way.
You can overwrite it.
You can overwrite it. Oh, for goodness sake.
Okay.
All right. Now I feel like an idiot.
Yeah, me too. It doesn't mean that we can guarantee the final ending, because anything we get wrong, we just overwrite with the options.
Right. So we know that George died by overdose of his medicine. George took his own life while home alone. Lyle conducted a stop and search on Lilith. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
That night,
Lilith was heading to see Jenny.
Okay. Oh no, it was Lilith helped administer medication for George. George's medicine was prescribed by Priscilla. We did that one. Somebody receives a bad reputation for defending somebody.
Jenny.
Jenny receives a bad reputation. No, was it? Oh, Jenny receives a bad reputation for defending Lilith. No.
Is that right? No.
Somebody gives somebody the watch from the crime scene.
So Barney Lilith.
Barney gives.
Yeah.
His reputation. So these two reputation ones are the ones that we have problems with. Somebody doesn't believe the alibi as somebody never arrived. So it'd be Lilith never arrived?
Yeah, Lilith never arrived. I think Priscilla didn't believe the alibi, but it's always Priscilla accusing Lilith. Was there anyone else who knew that? Barney doesn't believe the alibi? We haven't put Joseph into most of it.
Joseph doesn't believe the alibi. No. Yeah. What's this last one? Somebody accuses somebody of murder. Well, that's Lilith.
Yeah.
So who accused Lilith of murder?
I'm pretty sure it's Priscilla, but there's been a few where it's who's throwing suspicion on Lilith.
Joseph?
Lyle?
Joseph accuses Lilith.
Okay.
So we've got 3 missing from here. So this is afterwards. We've got somebody risks his reputation to defend somebody.
Barney, possibly? Was it Barney we played as first?
Yeah.
He's the one who
He
gives
risks
Lilith.
his reputation to defend Lilith. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, got it.
So we got 2 wrong. And then
Yeah.
the reputation one. Jenny receives a bad
Jenny
reputation for defending Lilith.
Yeah.
Barney?
Maybe. Yeah, okay.
So we just got 1 wrong. So again, we can't tell which one it is because they're not matched up, which is a bit annoying.
Yeah, we could sort them and move the ones we've got right, but
So Barney defends a bad reputation for defending Lilith. That's correct, isn't it?
yeah.
Barney refutes his reputation is correct. Barney gives Lilith the watch from the crime scene.
Yeah.
That's right. Is it?
Yeah. I can see that one on the bottom.
Jenny believes her boyfriend Lyle.
That's correct.
Jenny and Lyle break up. That's right.
Correct.
George's medication prescribed by Priscilla.
Correct.
Lilith helped administer the medication for George.
Correct.
Lyle refused Lilith's claim that
I think it's the one at the bottom. Hugh knew George was depressed.
Priscilla knew that George was depressed.
Which isn't right.
We said John originally, didn't we?
Yeah, John didn't get it.
John.
Is it that the Priscilla is correct, but it's not George? Priscilla knew.
Depressed.
Was it knew Lilith was depressed? There was something about her and her father. No, not that.
Well, normally I can. That's George. So if I put that as. Oh, I reckon if you get it right, it doesn't come across. So
yeah,
is that already in there? Priscilla knew that George was depressed. Yes, that's correct. That's
yeah, I just missed it. Okay, sorry.
So Lilith refuted. Lara refutes Lilith's claim that he stopped her.
Yeah, that's on there.
Joseph didn't believe the alibi as Lilith never arrived. That's correct, isn't it?
Actually, we've got. Okay.
Yeah, that was the wrong one.
Yeah. Right.
So
okay.
It can't be Lyle. Priscilla.
Yeah. I didn't do it. Barney. Not Barney.
Lyle knows.
Yeah.
John.
We haven't tried Jenny.
Yes.
Right.
Here we go.
And we found the ending.
The watch. We have it all together now. Exactly where you were headed and what you intend to do. I'm not going to report you. I didn't get the ending. Do you understand that?
No, I think I got the impression it depended on who we were playing as on the third day.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
And I forgot by the time we got to the ending who we had been
who
playing
we
as.
were playing as on the third day. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, look, where did we get to?
We haven't put a mark in the story to game yet. We got too engrossed in the ending.
Yes, so... and there is something to be said about the mystery design of this as well, but let's do story to game first. So story to game first, those are story decisions that you make. So we said the story decisions you make are the dialogues that you choose, and that gives the information that you then record in the notepad, which you then use to do the deduction. So I think that's probably at the good level when they're, but again, it misses out on the interconnectedness, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that there are cross references between what you're doing.
Okay, what about agency then?
So these are your choices. Yeah, there's no obvious right or wrong answer, and you're kind of making your choices based on the information that you picked up you're making that's the character choices. I mean, again, they're social interactions, and they're inherently nebulous in this way, right? So they're inherently interesting because you're trying to manipulate a particular outcome. The fact that they've also got this kind of meta conceit where you are going into other people's bodies, and so you shouldn't be letting on that you're not the person who you claim to be. That's also interesting. And there are plenty of decisions all the way through in the different dialogues. So again, what would a good be?
So this is a number of interesting choices and attempts to manage player agency. I think is a good.
So I think we're definitely there. What would excellent be?
This is where we need the network of interesting choices and an effective system for managing player agency. I suppose.
Day 4 it says.
Oh. That might be a small bug.
Can't be anyone else. We hadn't noticed. I think they've.
Is this ending?
This is the ending, I think. Is this right? Day 4? This is like their ending. It's exciting. You always hated me, even if it was like there was a murderer. Leave me alone. Is that an error, do you think?
I think that they forgot to reset the day counter, and it was trying to give us day 1 things, but hadn't updated incremented the counter from day 3 to day 4.
It's bounced us back to here, which is strange. We're back on day 4.
Maybe there's some
I reckon it's
complicated thing that ties in with the time traveling protagonist.
I think this is a bug, isn't it? This is like the end game state has broken the game a little bit. All right, let's restart.
Yeah. Okay.
So we said we're definitely definitely the good level. What would be the
network of interesting choices and an effective system for managing player agency, if we're going to call it excellent?
There isn't really a network of choices, is there?
There might be an effective system for managing player agency in the sense that the dialogue trees are done in such a way that you can get the right information out through aggressive and...
I think you're probably right. And if they've done it right, they would also have to have thought carefully about which options are available to you to try and give you a chance to get things on each day and so on. So maybe halfway between the two to represent that management.
That sounds good.
And that takes us on to pacing. So pacing's interesting. I kind of feel that because I wish something had happened on the 3 days. If something had happened on day 2, at the end of day 2 or something, I think that would have made a big difference to the game. Because I think you'd then have the pacing. Because at the moment, the pacing does rise, right? You go from the kind of the moving around getting the questions to the kind of bit about putting the case together and trying to solve the case. But yeah, it doesn't kind of have and they've given you that kind of bit at the end, which again is more of a denouement than a climax.
I think the good bit is they say at the beginning you're going to have 3 days to do it, and every day you therefore get closer to the climax just by virtue of the day progressing.
Yes.
And there is the end bit where you do put it all together, and that feels like a climactic moment. I think the bits that fall down slightly, we got a little confused in the end where you couldn't change your answer. I mean, we thought it fizzled out when it didn't. That was mostly on us.
Yes.
But also, as you're saying, each of the 3 days isn't different to each other. I guess the classic thing for a murder mystery thing is someone dies on the second day, and they're eliminated as a suspect.
And that's why, right? That's why that happens in every single murder mystery that's out there. If you think about games that are like this, and the one it reminds me of most is Obra Dinn, where you gradually fill in the ship's log. What happens in Obra Dinn is you start off in your investigations, and it's very carefully designed. So initially you're finding out about perfectly ordinary deaths, and then about halfway through you suddenly discover this supernatural element, right? and it kind of ramps up, and the weirdness ramps up, and the strangeness ramps up, and that's very effective at creating pace, narrative pacing as you go through, and it also has a much more developed end point where you're making decisions after you've solved the case, as it were. You're then having some consequences of that for the character you were playing as the detective.
Yeah.
I think it's so. I would say the pacing does rise, but it doesn't. I mean, that sounds more like a satisfactory, perhaps.
Yeah, so satisfactory, some ascending pacing, and good is ascending pacing with a clear final peak. We might be between them, or either satisfactory or good.
It depends whether you think of that bit at the end with stitching together all the bits as a kind of a final peak.
I think that it's almost a final peak. I think that it wasn't quite dramatic enough with even just the title screen going, "You got it right." Just no more than that would have been just enough to push it forward.
So
I think we're probably saying satisfactory there.
I think so.
As an alternative suggestion, just as another way of pushing the pacing, the game that it reminds me of is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
Yes.
And that pushes pacing because every time you talk to anyone, your score goes down. And so the pacing there is, I could go and get some more information, or I could try and cash in my answer right now. And that would have been maybe an easier way for implementing this. We said before, if you're not permitted to talk to everyone, that forces the pacing forward. You could, in principle, you are permitted to talk to everyone, but your score is less and less good every time you do.
That makes sense. Yeah. So that takes us on to the storytelling methods. There's quite a few, right? So we've got some really nice animated cutscenes. Mm-hmm. We've got the dialogue. We've got little bits of information in the character sheets. So it's not quite environmental storytelling, but it's sort of informational storytelling in the scene, in the world. So I think they've done quite a good job of telling the story in several different ways. What could be?
So good, successful use of more than one game rating technique.
I think it's definitely there. And what would an excellent be?
Use of more than one game rating technique and mechanics support theme.
It's interesting. So do we have ludonarrative harmony going on here? So I think what we're doing there are some bits. So I guess we have some mechanical harmony, right? So literally attaching the pins to the pictures and stuff at the end.
Yeah.
We have here is what I am doing is I'm collecting clues. And the question is, does the story reflect that that's what the story is about? I don't know if the story does, possibly. You also want the meta story seems weirdly disconnected, right?
Yeah.
So the meta story about I am a spirit who inhabits people for 3 days, it's like that's not part of the story. That's not part of the main narrative at all. It's left completely as an artifact, as an artifice, I should say. So, yeah, I don't think it quite gets there. I think it's definitely good, but it doesn't quite get to the point of actually using the kind of key mechanism of the story, which is body jumping, as part of the story, right?
Yeah, I think they've already done a lot of work for what is a small game prototype.
Yes.
But I guess you could imagine that really leaning into it further would be there's lots of cases and you're jumping around different places. You visit the same world several times or something.
Yeah, I just meant the fact that there was something here in the actual story about. So maybe you're the ghost of George, right?
Yeah.
And the story is all about kind of having of not only finding the story, but for George to reconcile with his daughter or something. Not that they're irreconciled in the story, but you know what I mean. There's some purpose going on.
You guys can't rest until the case has been solved. I think,
but I feel bad suggesting it. I think the problem is that they've set themselves a really high bar by picking this type of mystery game, this detective game. They're really, really hard to do. So the fact they've pulled it off is a little bit astonishing, to be honest. And I feel like
I wish there was more of it, not because the coursework requirement says there should be more, but because I would play more of it.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the stuff that would make it even better is pretty much impossible to do, I think, because of the very nature of the game, right, and the way that they've done it. But I think that is what you'd have had to have done to have kind of lifted it up a bit, to have some kind of reflexivity between that kind of core mechanic of switching character and the story itself, right? And that's not there at the moment.
Yeah. Honestly, I hope that having done all the work to get this framework built, if they are tempted to write more stories, they've done a lot of the hard work mechanistically to make this drag and drop, writing more stories to put on top of it in the future. But okay, so let's move to feedback then as the last part of the mark criteria.
What are they saying?
Yeah, so they say the main feedback was to identify one main gameplay mechanic, focus on that, and focus on the interaction between the story and the gameplay. They focused on the clue arrangement phase, that's the last phase of the game, and the story choice to make you would determine the clues you had available at the end of the day. So yes, who you are affects what you get to learn, and to arrange your notes. They say just there's then also a long paragraph about what was in scope and out of scope. They have more grand plans for having a longer story where you get to go to the drag and drop board every day or between every few days and fill in parts of the story as you go. And I think they've done a good job there to identify that keeping the scope as small as possible is good, and they've really done quite a lot of work even in the scope they've given themselves. I think the feedback there there isn't a lot of feedback, in the sense that the feedback says, remember what the mark scheme says. The mark scheme says, make sure you've got a story and gameplay that tie up nicely.
But they have done it well with that, and that board at the end is very good. Yeah, very good. And in fact, I was going to say that's the bit that I think is worth noting, is that the problem with detective games is if you leave the deduction all up to the player, then the problem is if they can't do it, they can't do it, and they just get bored and that's it. Whereas if you give them mechanisms for deduction, then give them options, for example, then they can guess, and it gets rid of all the fun. So what they've done, which is so nice, is they've said, and again, Obra Dinn uses this mechanism. They've kind of said, when you get you can start putting the connections together, and when you make when you get it right, it goes down the bottom and it confirms it. But you have to have quite a lot of the clues in place, because there's too much to just guess, right?
Yeah, they're explicitly checked pairwise.
So you might be able to guess like the last 2 or 3 things. I think we've guessed the last one, didn't we?
Yeah.
But you can't do it all the way through, and they've done a really good job of applying that. Yeah. So I mean, I really like this game. I think that they're really hard to get right, and they got it right, and that says a lot. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that was our last game. So thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.